So far, we had discussed about modulation scheme, linear modulation schemes, where we studied about various methodologies to generate the modulation. After the signal is received in the receiver, what is important is how do we demodulate the signal? So we'll take a peek into demodulation. Broadly, there are two classes of detectors. One is envelope detector, another is synchronous detector or coherent detector. Envelope detector works on the amplitude of the envelope of the amplitude modulated signal. It's pretty simple, inexpensive, but the corresponding transmitter or the transmitting signal associated with the modulation scheme should ensure that proper envelope is available at the receiver. On the other hand, coherent detectors like synchronous detectors, they are best for weak signal detection. So they work well in low SNR. They uh, work for cases where carrier is not present. Carrier is not present in the sense like carrier will always be present, but additional carrier is not inserted in the spectrum. And however, they're expensive. They require appropriate synchronization, and so on and so forth. Trade-offs. So there are two concepts in synchronous detection: heterodyning and homodyning. In heterodyning, the frequency conversion is made such that the input frequency, let's say if it is input frequency of the receiver, if it is omega c, the local oscillator frequency is omega LO, then the output would be at an intermediate frequency which is omega I, which is omega c minus LO or omega LO minus c, omega c. So depending on whether the LO is higher or lower compared to omega c, you have super heterodyne, subheterodyne. Homodyne is the principle based on which the local oscillator frequency and phase are synchronized exactly with the transmitter. So the signal, so at the output, you would get the original message signal immediately without any intermediate step. Hmm. A general modulated signal would look like this: I component containing Kc plus K mu xt and Q component containing K mu xqt. The general amplitude modulated signal would be Kc plus K mu xt cosine omega ct minus K mu xqt sine omega ct. If Kc is 0, you have a suppressed carrier schemes. If xqt is 0, you have DSB and so on and so forth. If xc, xqt are related by Hilbert transform, you have SSB, and vestigial sideband would be something a little bit different from that. So YT, the output of the YT, when it is mixed with XCT, is mixed with local oscillator signal, which is ALO cosine omega CT, and then the output is low pass filtered with low pass cutoff as W message signal, and you get the detector output, demodulated output. So YT is equal to XCT ALO cosine omega CT, and if you multiply them together, it turns out to be ALO by 2 Kc plus K mu xt cosine omega ct. Cosine omega ct cos, one is the DC component and one is so cos square, and one is cos 2 omega, and cosine sine 2 omega. So these two can be neglected, and henceforth you are left with term after low pass filtering which contains only this. So detector output is some constant Kc plus K mu xt. So it contains the message signal. Kd is my detection constant. Kc is a DC portion which can be removed by using a blocking capacitor or a transformer. and DC, static, noise, various things come into picture. So DC, so generally that's why you recall when we send a message signal, the message signal had a close to zero DC because we normalized it between -1 to 1 in the during before transmission, and we remove the DC by blocking the DC cable. DC does not contain information. It introduces, in fact, noise present in various other components. So KC can be removed, but with loss of yeah. The moment you do a blocking capacitor or transformer, you have a loss of low frequency message. That is obvious. For vestigial sideband, due to symmetry of the vestigial filter, if you actually implement, we remember we discussed about two cases. One is if you could actually implement the proper vestigial filter, then in the receiver it becomes pretty easy. If you could not, then you need to do that equalizer filter. So if you consider the first case, symmetry of the vestigial filter, the portion removed from the upper sideband or lower sideband is exactly restored with the corresponding vestige of the lower sideband, upper sideband, and exact reconstruction of XF occurs. This we illustrated using the pictorial perspective. So next let's discuss about a little bit of homodyne detection. So homodyne detection, so we have received signal which contains the pilot carrier. The pilot carrier is extracted by using a notch filter or pilot filter. It's amplified and then added. It's amplified and then mixed with the incoming received signal. Finally, the output of the mixture model goes through a low pass filter, and you get the demodulated output. So that's why this is known as homodyne detection. So the pilot carrier with much reduced power is already present inside. You just have to extract it out from the signal itself, amplify, and you utilize the same. You utilize whatever is present inside the received signal for demodulation purpose. So homodyne, self utilization of whatever present, self mixing. So to synchronize, a pilot carrier is often inserted in suppressed carrier system. Pilot carrier typically is of lower amplitude level because you do not want much energy to be wasted in pilot when during transmission. You need more energy in the sidebands. So effect of phase and frequency drift of local oscillator is very important here. Small analysis needs to be understood. So if pilot is absent, then a local oscillator synchronizes the frequency, the phase. It has to provide a local oscillator has to synchronize with the transmitter frequency and transmitter phase. Now let's say the local oscillator has a small drift or error. So instead of omega c, it's omega c plus omega prime. Drifting frequency is omega prime. And let's say there is a phase error phi prime compared to the carrier. Okay. So consider a DSB tone modulated signal. DSB, in most of the cases, when you analyze the performance of a system, you have to resort to tone modulation. That means a particular frequency, omega m, and you can, from Fourier analysis, you know that you can expand a signal in terms of collection of frequencies, and henceforth, at a particular frequency, let's try to understand the details. Omega m. So Y detector output would be carry, you recall carry, the constant, and cosine omega mt, input signal, cosine omega prime t plus phi t. So because omega c and whatever was present, they get cancelled. So this is the DC portion. So this is equal to carry constant omega m plus omega prime, omega m minus omega prime. If phi prime is 0, that means there is no phase error. If only frequency drifting, frequency error is there, then instead of a single tone frequency at omega m, which is the desired one, you have pair of tones. Pair of tones around omega m, desired one, omega m plus omega prime, omega m minus omega prime. So pair of tones beat effect is produced. The effect is very severe actually, hmm, especially for an audio. Well, when omega prime is 0, that means if there is frequency error is not, no, phase error is there. Then what do you have? You have kd cosine omega mt and you have cosine phi prime. Okay. So this is something which is a constant thing. This can be observed in kd because it's not varying with time. If phi prime is very less, it's okay. But if phi prime is, let's say, 90-degree quadrature phase, then the output is 0. When actually you want an output which is a frequency omega m, tone frequency omega m, output you get is detector output is 0. So here it's not the case. Here whatever it is, you get two signals, but okay. You instead of a single frequency, you get two different frequencies and not the actual one, and it's a nuisance. Fine, but here you completely lose the signal. So this is very sensitive with respect to the phase error. So also in many cases, if your channel is varying because of the presence of propagation environment, presence of atmospheric characteristics, temperatures, wind direction, scattering, and so on and so forth. So these things vary, these drifts vary. Phi prime varies. So varying phi prime, whatever you see the output would then have a fading kind of effect. The output would not be the single frequency, the output would be that single frequency with a modulation, with a fading effect on it. So this is for DSP. Let's see for single sideband. For single sideband with the same message signal, which is a tone frequency omega m, so detector output would be KD. You just plug it back there. Corresponding, you choose single sideband, and if you choose output, would be KD cosine omega m minus plus omega prime t minus plus phi prime. After substituting back there. So the for phi prime 0, that means only frequency drift is there. Output is kd cosine omega m minus plus omega prime t. So it means that there is a constant frequency shift. So the frequency which was desired, it's just shifted a little bit. This is still acceptable for my purpose, demodulation purpose. A little slight shift. I'm not getting two frequencies like DSB case. And for example, in music signal, when frequencies are related by harmonic, probably this shift will destroy the harmonics, but still intelligible. Okay, fine. Not that severe effect. When omega prime is 0, then what you have is kd cos omega mt minus plus phi prime. This means that there is a, see from here, there is a delay distortion. So phase and frequency synchronization requirements are modest for voice transmission via SSB. For data, fax, video, which uses double sideband or vestigial sideband is a different case, double sideband, it requires careful synchronization because, as you can see from here. Hence, VSB plus carrier is used in such cases. Okay. So see, from a demodulation perspective, we found that DSB was not also a very suitable modulation scheme. Single sideband is better if possible. But for cases when there is significant low frequency content, DSB, even though apparently it's very easy in the transmitter side to design the architecture hardware, you tend to use vestigial sideband plus carrier. Okay? Envelope detection. So now we move to envelope detection. The envelope detection, we studied two classes of detector, right? Envelope detector, synchronous detector. Envelope detection. Envelope of an amplitude modulated signal has a message. Regular amplitude modulator, huh? Where carrier was present. Carrier was present in the spectrum, independent of the carrier frequency and phase. So there is no requirement of synchronization. This is the beauty of envelope detection. For suppressed carrier system, carrier is inserted at receiver, to perform the envelope detector. Receive signal suppressed carrier, you synchronize, have a local oscillator, add a carrier, or you extract through a pilot, amplify, add a carrier, envelope detector output. Simple. Envelope detector, even though it consists of nonlinear device, when we say linear envelope detector, what do you mean? It does not mean that the envelope detector consists of linear device. It's not possible. Actually, it should consist of square law non-linear device. Otherwise, you cannot extract the envelope. But linear envelope detector means the output is linearly proportional to the input envelope. Okay. So consists of nonlinear diode with piecewise linear characteristics. Let's say this is the characteristics of diode. Piecewise linear. So up to 0.7, up to something in this threshold it is 0, after which it is linearly increasing. So a typical envelope detector would be something like this. You have a diode, then you have RC in parallel, CR, and you take the output across this voltage, V out. So this diode acts as a half wave rectifier. The RC parallel acts as a low pass filter, responding to variations in peaks of Vn. And this VT here approximates the envelope of Vn. Then C2R2, this acts as a DC block to remove the bias, remove the DC signal, a bias present. We'll soon see in pictorial. Power law diodes would create appreciable second harmonic distortion. So we want an ideal square law. So the requirement of R1C1 is, which acts as a low pass filter, 1 by R1C1 should be much greater than the bandwidth of the received signal, bandwidth of the message signal, and should be much less than carrier frequency. Okay. Pictorially, let's see what happens. If this is my input signal, so after full wave, after half wave rectification, you have something like this. Half wave rectification. Only in the positive half cycle, you have signal present. Ideal diode. So ideal diode characteristics, rectifier characteristics, half wave. Where it is less than 0, it is 0. Then this R1C1, this output V would be, it tracks the envelope. So over here, so RC, this output V, uh, slowly decays based on RC time constant. And then when it reaches the signal level, it again, the capacitor again charges. Then when the signal falls down, the signal decays. Again, when the signal, likewise, it capacitor charges and capacitor discharges and so on and so forth. So it tracks the envelope. This RC, which acts as a low pass filter, basically. The principle behind that is it's doing a charging discharging operation and it tracks the envelope. The V out here, so the V what you got over here is basically this. You see, this represents a message signal, but there is a bias present, DC bias present. Next step is you do use a low pass filter. Sorry, you use a CR filter to act as a DC block, remove the bias, and you get a V out which is like this. Of course, you lose a little bit of low frequency portion. Okay. What happens? The choice of RC, as we have discussed here, 1 by RC should be much greater than W, much less than FC. You see here, envelope detector output, if RC is too large, this is the ideal RC that you want. The signal, the capacitor charges. When signal falls below that level, it discharges slowly, and when signal again reaches charges, and so on and so forth. So there are these, sharp, small kinks and edges present. Fine. That can be removed by the filter. However, if RC is too large, you see this delay, this decay. Uh, the is not that fast. It falls like this, and it cannot track this portion of the envelope. Okay, this is the envelope present. Cannot track the portion of the envelope. If RC is too small, then it would be just the opposite. RC is too small, then it will be like this, again like this, again like this, and so on and so forth. So you want RC to be appropriate such that it tracks this envelope and you provide the envelope detector output. So an alternate viewpoint of the rectifier was detected. So through Fourier analysis. Let's say VR, this is the output over here, VR rectifier. Output of the rectifier is basically, it's something. What is the half-wave rectifier doing? It's basically masking or keeping only the portion of the signal where it is greater than 0. When it is less than 0, it is truncating the signal to 0. So it's basically multiplying A plus mt cosine omega ct. It's multiplying by a weighting function Wt, which is 1 in the half of the duration, which is 0 in the next half of the duration. The periodic repetition is 1 by fc. So when you multiply these two together, A plus mt cosine omega ct, Wt, when you, so there is a periodic train of pulses. When you do a Fourier expansion of this, you get, let's say, half plus 2 by pi cosine omega ct minus 1/3 cosine 3 omega ct plus 1/5 cosine 5, and so on and so forth. When you do a low pass filtering, you actually throw away this component. You only keep the components which is associated with. So cosine omega ct cos square would give you the corresponding DC component. So you have 1 by pi A plus mt plus other higher terms, other terms corresponding to higher frequencies. So this is the basic principle of a rectifier based envelope detector. You can use a full wave rectifier also, in which case your weighting function won't be a periodic train between 0 and 1, would be a periodic train between -1 and +1. So again, same series expansion, probably you get 2 times the output. That you may work out the Fourier analysis. An even function nonlinearity based demodulation. Example, a square law. Consider the input-output relation, which is y equal to kx square. So the relationship between the nonlinear device relationship between input and output is square. So if x is AC 1 plus mt cosine omega ct, so y is x square would lead you to y is k AC square 1 plus mt whole square cos square omega ct. After low pass filtering and DC blocking, the output is k AC square. Cos square is, as you know, corresponding pi frequency, and DC portion would be mt k AC square, and you have after DC blocking, so 1 is removed, you have mt plus half m squared t. So a scalar demodulation would lead to something. This is the desired signal, right? mt after low pass filtering and DC blocking. However, this is distortion which appears m squared t, and m squared t occupies the same band. If mt occupies the band between 0 to b, m squared t occupies the band between 0 to 2b. That means there is portion of m squared t which occupies the same band as mt. and it creates distortion. So low distortion would imply half m square t would be much less than mt. Then only we have low distortion. In other words, it is magnitude of mt should be much less than 2. Remember when we mentioned once that linear envelope detector. This is the ideal characteristics which we want. So any power law device, parallel diodes would create appreciable second harmonic distortion. Would create this distortion as we discussed before. This distortion. Any other higher order nonlinearities would definitely give you the signal back of original signal, but would introduce this distortion, okay, which is undesired. So that's why that is the more piecewise linear you can make, it's ideal one. So even when demodulation is not intended actually, in various cases, for example, a nonlinear amplifier with high gain may accidentally create demodulation because of this phenomenon. Square law, power law effect. Okay, so we will discuss about we'll just pictorial take a look about we broadly studied these things. Synchronous detection we'll study a little later because that would require our understanding of phase lock loop. So again, let's see A plus mt cosine omega ct of this signal. The rectifier output was like this, A plus mt, and the Fourier analysis, whatever we got, 1 by pi A plus mt, and so on and so forth. So in many cases, you may play around with this instead of using a pure low pass filter. You may try to do a transformer coupling to just block the DC rather than not combine them together and do a transformer coupling. Just block the DC and not reduce the high frequency components. Okay. A full wave based rectifier can also be used as discussed before. Circuit would look like this. You have a bridge circuit and diodes arranged in bridge configuration. So this is a full wave rectifier, and then you have corresponding low pass filter RC. In that case, our signal, if this was the signal which was present, and original signal, so the intermediate full wave rectifier output would be like this, because you have whole signal, you have the lower portion of the original signal is flipped up, and then you choose RC such that it follows this. Here the requirement of RC, stringent requirement of RC, maybe are relaxed a little bit, because in the previous case you had you see here in the previous case you had a problem that it needs to be tracked here. It should not go like this, or it should not decay very fast. But now you have an intermediate signal present. The negative lobe gets upward converted to in the positive direction. So you might have relaxed condition of RC, and you have this envelope. Okay. So with this, actually, we conclude our discussion on the demodulation techniques. Thank you very much.